The TWMP Daily. I am not Scott Fawn, but I am joined by some pretty fantastic guests today. Garrett Hawkins with the Missouri Farm Bureau. Thank you for taking the time, man.
You bet. Great to
And
see
of
you.
course, Erin Shrimp, who's wearing her very stylish shirt today.
Yeah.
It's very motherly, isn't it?
Well, it has origins with the Missouri Times because it was a gift by the Rachel Dunn. So it was a birthday. It was a
if
birthday
there was
gift.
a person I'd want a gift from, it would be Rachel.
And it's a fantastic message. So. Yeah.
Garrett, thank you though for taking the time. Missouri agriculture is something you're a little interested in, isn't it?
Just a little.
What is the current state right now for Missouri ag? What's the economy looking like? You know, is there any trends we can kind of pick up on now? What's going on?
One word: tough. I mean, farmers and ranchers are gritty, but we're in year 2, year 3 of just a really tough farm economic cycle.
I was at your guys' conference this last December, and I remember your keynote speech was that the overall theme was determined to thrive, but you did touch on this note that the economy is going to get tough for farmers here in the next couple of years. So you guys obviously were kind of expecting this, but you know, talk to me a little bit. What are the points that people really need to know?
Well, I mean, you have really tough commodity prices across the board, except cattle continue to be the bright spot right now, just because we're at such a low inventory of beef cows in the country and where we're at with the cattle cycle. So, but we've also seen volatility that we can talk about. But from a row crop standpoint, it is a challenging time. Like for folks to pencil out a profit is very difficult. So as people wrap up harvest, there are some really challenging conversations that are happening with lenders right now as people try to make plans for 2026. You know, you think back to last December, it was pretty remarkable as Congress was loading up a Christmas tree of goodies for an omnibus spending bill. Ultimately, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance weighed in. Congress sloughed off everything except for ag, disaster, and economic assistance because they recognized at the time just what a tough situation farmers and ranchers were facing across the country. And that's why the president and others are saying yet again that assistance is needed, and we've been saying that for some time.
Well, what's the industry, you know, the industry that Missouri is really seeing a hard hit on? Is it soy? Is it corn?
Soy, corn, cotton, rice. It's your major row crops. I mean, there are several factors that go into that. I mean, we've got huge supplies, one. We've had volatility in the international market, right? I mean, in the name of China, I mean, they're finally stepping up after the president's visit to Southeast Asia to make some purchases. But, you know, you have an administration that's focused on trying to right the ship in terms of U.S. trade policy and trying to address unfair trade practices. And patience that I think has been felt throughout the ag community has also led to some nervousness of needing to see progress in the form of not just new trade deals that have been inked, but the sales that need to come as a result of the trade deals that the president is negotiating. So there's just a lot at play. And then finally, you have input prices. Input prices that continue to be persistently high across the board, double-digit increases over the last few years.
Your industry, the agricultural community, has overwhelmingly backed President Trump, and every time that he's, you know, been on the ballot. What's the long game there? We talk a lot about the volatility in the international markets, a lot to do with, I think, a more populist stance on his trade policy. Where does what's the long view here? Where do we end?
Because I think everybody agrees that there's trade deals that we have out there that are really screwing us over. Everybody would agree with that. I think the question right now is how do we get the trade deals where it benefits us, but also, you know, like we're able to work something out with countries that we want to work with.
Can you let me be a little bit of a trade nerd
Absolutely.
for a minute?
Yeah,
So
love it.
This is
Let's do it.
like year 20.
We don't really
Some
get
people
the
need
details.
it. Some people need it. So let's do it.
I don't know if you've met
No,
Scott.
I want to
The
see
details aren't exactly the...
This is the space to do that today.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's take a trip down memory lane
Yeah.
here for a moment. So I've been in the farm food policy space for 20 years. And back in my early Farm Bureau days as a young staffer, everyone was talking about the potential for a new WTO agreement, a Doha round of negotiations. And I mean, there was so much excitement in DC that we were going to tear down tariffs, we were going to address non-tariff trade barriers, and guess what? Nothing happened. Everything fizzled. And through the years, as we have had trade disputes that are brought forth in the WTO by U.S. negotiators, it'll take sometimes a decade to try to see it all the way through the process and ultimately get a result that results in more market access for U.S. farmers and ranchers. So then we start down the road of bilateral deals. We saw some during the George W. Bush years. We saw the first 4 years of the Obama administration languish. Nothing happened in the trade space while we had trade deals pending that George W. Bush, or then president, had negotiated. And then during the second half of the Obama administration, we started to see a few deals inked. Then we saw Trump won, right? And we saw a new approach to trade that led to volatility, but also this vision that we needed to do better in improving market access. Then you have the Biden 4 years where nothing happened in the trade space.
Yeah.
Nothing. So you get to a president who has a total different look at the world from what we have seen, right? And now tariffs are the blunt force instrument that are being used to bring countries to the table, not just to improve market access, but he's actually using it to negotiate peace, which is exactly what's been the strategy in the Middle East. So short-term pain for what we hope will be more meaningful progress in market access than we have seen in my 20 years. Because it's amazing, guys, as I sit down with representatives from the U.S. Trade Rep's office, they actually feel like they are free to actually work on technical barriers to trade that oftentimes they just get sloughed off to the side because they're not high priority enough, but they're the issues that keep us out of markets. European Union is one of the worst for keeping our protein out of their market or throwing up a red flag about a GMO trait.
Yeah.
So so that's what is exciting from my standpoint. If you're a true trade policy person who's followed this for years, you see that we're actually talking about issues that don't make headlines but will make a difference in the long term of improving market access for us. That's the exciting part.
There was a I think it actually just came out either today or a couple days ago. There was a thing saying that net farm income is up more than what they broadcast at the beginning of the year. But you were telling me earlier that you think there's something a little off about that. Talk to me about that. Because right now, earlier this year is forecast for, I think, 41%. And now it's being said that it's actually 58%. What's the math on that?
Well, I mean, you've got cattle numbers, where cattle prices are at that overall help boost that number. You also have government support that factors into. I mean, if you were to start breaking down where the parts of net farm income, you see that the reliance on government assistance because of where the markets are at, you see that in the numbers as well. Then obviously you go anywhere in the state and you visit with people and you're going to hear about persistently high input prices, what it takes to put out a crop, harvest a crop, even what it takes to raise livestock these days. Like, it is so costly. Everything that we touch costs more. We saw that rise during the pandemic, and nothing's quite came back down after the supply chain constraints.
How much of the issues right now are we seeing is still kind of residual from COVID versus trade issues? I'm going to guess it might be an even bit, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say COVID is really, the lag from the pandemic is really the issue. Just the issue is, you look at fertilizer, for instance. We rely heavily on imports when it comes to the critical fertilizer components. And oftentimes those come from unstable regions of the world. Russia, Ukraine, North Africa, for instance. So, and then you have China, who is a major player. You have Brazil and Argentina, who continue to just put more acres into production, which also means more fertilizer use there. So global demand continues to rise at a time that U.S. farmers are really feeling the pinch. But we're in a global marketplace.
Well, let's talk about, obviously, the economy for the last couple of years for farmers has been tough, but this year you guys in the legislature had some really good wins. Talk to me a little bit about your health plans, because that was a very big one from you for you guys to get. I was at the signing with Governor Kehoe. I'd never seen that many people there, just like and it wasn't lobbyists, it wasn't people in health industry or whatever. It was actual farmers who are going to benefit from this daily. Talk to me a little bit about them.
Well, passage of health plans was really a passion project, not just for me, but for our members, who have for years have said that they have been left behind by failed federal health policies that have driven up the cost of health insurance for those who are self-employed. So farmers, small business owners, individuals, right? And we saw this when the Affordable Care Act passed. We were concerned about the segment that we represent being left behind. And what we've seen through the years is that it just gets worse. When you hear people that open their renewal notice and they see that their premium's going to go up 30, 40%, and for a farm family now paying $2,500, $3,000 a month for basically a high deductible plan, it really eats into your ability to provide for your family. And in my first few years as president, as Missouri Farm Bureau president, what I heard over and over again is this: it was not sustainable, that some of our members were choosing to go uninsured, which is absolutely alarming when you think that you're one potential catastrophe away from losing part or everything. And then people looking for alternative means. And what we learned was that there are other states who had received approval by their respective state farm bureaus to be able to offer health coverage that operates outside of but alongside of the marketplace. And so we started that conversation. Unfortunately, 3 years later, it came to fruition, and January 1, we will be live, in which our members will be able to consider Missouri Farm Bureau for their health needs.
And Missouri isn't the only state that's done this. There's several others.
Yeah, there's more than a dozen now, actually. So it's proven. Tennessee Farm Bureau was the first. They've been doing this for more than 75 years. Kansas, Indiana followed next. They've been in the business for over 5 years. Texas, South Dakota.
Helps that a state senator carried the bill this year was a farmer. But I think
Exactly.
Senator Bean has carried it before, but there you had all the everything kind of came together for you this year.
It did.
Senator Bean obviously is one of the strongest advocates for agriculture, but two freshman senators come to mind, especially, and that's Senator Berger, and that's Senator Gregory. Two people that have really stepped up. Now, obviously, both former House members, but I mean, Senator Berger and Gregory have just been phenomenal at working these ag issues, and also just phenomenal freshman year. I mean, obviously, Senator Berger had the water bill. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that was an issue I had no idea about. And then Jamie had this bill that everybody was, talking about, we got water protection and stuff. And I listened to him on the floor, and I was like, I never knew any of this stuff. It's stuff. It's basic, and obvious. I come from Independence. I'm a suburban kid, so obviously I don't think I would know too much about it. But it's stuff that not only affects agriculture, but also just affects the state as a whole. Talk to me about the water bill.
He's used to the mafia used to run the water system in Eastern Jackson County.
When JJ was in charge. When JJ was in charge.
Doesn't know how this works in other parts of the state. So.
I'm just used to a losing baseball team. So,
Oh no!
No, we're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh,
Scott.
man.
well, the other side is also the losing baseball team.
But Jamie's floor speech on the House side, his last year on the House side, was one of the best floor speeches of that year, and he's continued to kind of.
We need a picture of his male modeling career.
Carry the water. Jamie Berger carrying the water.
That Jamie did some male modeling photography.
I did not know that.
It was for Kelton. I can't remember. It was like a tool brand or like a men's workwear brand or something. But there's pictures of him. And
this was not on my bingo card for today.
He told me about this one night, folks, and we need a picture of it somewhere.
If there's something embarrassing, Scott Fawn in the Missouri Times will find it.
No,
Golly.
Jamie showed me the picture. He's just like, look at this. This is awesome. I'm like, that is awesome. But anyway, the water bill.
Well, the water bill.
Talk to me about why it's important.
Because it actually is forward-looking. And how often does that happen, right? To actually be thinking out about water and water use, water availability. What's the old saying? whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting, right? They used to say that out west. You look to the west and you see the pressures all around water. And certainly Missouri is a state where we have water resources, particularly in the Boot Hill. But yet you see what's happening elsewhere, and you can see the day in which major users would want to export water from Missouri to those areas. And so this is actually a forward-looking bill to actually make sure that Missouri has a regulatory framework in place.
So what was the
protect.
situation prior to the bill? That Jamie was saying that people could just export our water, and there was
wide
nothing,
open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing we got out of it.
It was wide open. So that's the thing. And especially this issue started amongst Senator Bean, Senator Berger, our members in Southeast Missouri, who were recognizing conversations in areas to the south around water and could see that there could perceivably be a real threat about people wanting to export major quantities of water. So that conversation started there, and then it spread throughout the state amongst our members saying, you know what, this makes sense to actually put in place a regulatory framework in which we can protect our most precious resource here in the state, and that's our water. So kudos to them.
Aaron, what were some of the, because I saw this year, obviously ag's always been a very important industry to the state, but I saw this year ag really got ahead in some of these issues. What were you seeing when you were in the gallery?
Yeah, I think that's right. Their big priorities passed. I think the biggest difference was probably new members in the Senate, honestly.
Yeah.
The Senate's where things get held up, and having Senator Berger, Senator Gregory, I think, found a compromise, particularly on the health plan bill with the other side, that was able to bring members to the table, probably because his geographic proximity to the Kansas City area probably
That's
helped
a big
little
word.
bit.
We
to
would
some of
not
his,
be using that word.
to some of his,
here.
sorry, I get dinged on that a lot. Probably helped to some of the minority caucus that has issues with that bill in the past. I think that probably helped a lot. But yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
Do you think also another help is the fact that a very farm-friendly governor is now in office?
Absolutely. I think
Not that
just, yeah.
Mr. Parsons was at all. But, I mean,
Yeah.
Kehoe has been very strong advocate for rural Missouri and rural ag issues. And obviously Farm Bureau was very eager to see him win.
Absolutely. We've known our governor for many years. He's actually served on our agritourism committee. First generation farmer, been a Farm Bureau member for decades, and so he understands our organization inside and out. He's a fellow member, and so our folks were very eager to support his candidacy and love seeing what he's doing now that he's at the helm. And again, we're very fortunate that we've had a good string of common sense leadership here in the state. And certainly when you talk about freshman senators as well as seasoned veterans like Sandy Crawford, who really came alongside of Curtis Gregory to help us get the health plan bill done, you just saw a great team effort. Curtis could speak so eloquently on the issue because he'd experienced the issue himself. It was personal to him. And obviously him carrying the bill in the House and then wanting to continue it in the Senate, to see Brad Pollitt step up in the House. Was
another fantastic guy.
Was huge as well. So just all around, I'll tell you, for other state farm bureaus looking at us, they're like, why is it taking so long? And I'm like, you have never experienced the Missouri process. Missouri is deliberative. We are a stubborn group of folks, right?
Yep.
And it took a lot of time to just share the why and the understanding that all we were asking for is the chance to be able to serve our people in the way they want to be served.
Well, if Scott was here, he would remind us that obviously the Missouri House is made up, the supermajority is made up of rural Missouri House reps. And it's a shame because the last few years we've kind of just seen him want to be the alderman for St. Louis. But it seemed like this year there was a real change of pace where they actually wanted to address some ag issues. And I really do hope, because, I mean, what we're seeing now, Aaron obviously is more of a social media person than I am, but I mean,
I don't know about that.
From what I've just seen is that it seems like a lot more people are wanting to start small farms and really build up, whether it be, selling to community or anything like that. My dad started he was a dairy farmer when he was a kid. Eventually we moved to Independence. He worked in concrete, still works in concrete now. But they eventually just moved out to Odessa, and they bought 30 acres out there, and they now have a small poultry farm that they're working on.
And I ask his parents for tips all the time because we took on poultry this past spring, and I was constantly asking Jake to ask his parents questions about what I was doing wrong.
But it seems like there's a lot more people nowadays who want to get into, whether it's farming in general, but also they want to start small family farms. And so and maybe this more goes into what you guys want to pursue here in the future, but it seems like there's a strategy there that you can capitalize on where a lot more people are wanting to go into farming and want to start these small family farm businesses, or whether they're selling to the local community or they want to branch out even further.
As Scott would say, Blake rescued me from Kansas City's crime and brought me back out to Wardsville. Like he likes to say. Like that he rescued Casey. Sorry.
But have you guys noticed that too with Farm Bureau? Have
Yes.
you noticed more small farms
Small farms, agritourism. Agritourism's been huge. I think we were the first state Farm Bureau to actually have an agritourism committee. We pursued legislation to provide liability protection. We offer signage to our Farm Bureau members to use to display on their agritourism venues. So, that has been a true bright spot where people who are traditional in their farming operations finding way to diversify income, but also new entrants into agriculture finding a home in agritourism. But just overall though, these tough economic times, we are seeing just a decline overall in farm numbers, and that's what's most alarming to me. And again, little history lesson. Decades ago, American Farm Bureau commissioned a study. They called it Making American Agriculture Productive and Profitable. And it was a look ahead of what American agriculture would look like in 2019 in the centennial of the American Farm Bureau, which, again, by the way, Missouri Farm Bureau was formed 4 years prior as the first state Farm Bureau. So the movement was born here. But one of the key takeaways of that study was the projection that the middle of agriculture would fall out and that we would see larger farms as well as more smaller niche operations. Unfortunately, that's what you're seeing. The pressure, the input cost pressure, and just where commodity prices are, you do see overall a decrease in the number of the middle, if you will, and you see more numbers on the edges. So you see this evolution, but we continue to look for opportunities at every chance, to bring the kids home. You hear me talk about it all the time. What is it going to take to bring our kids home to the farm or to the rural community? And you can't bring them home to the farm if there's no opportunity in the community and if the community has died around you.
Yep.
That's why we work on quality of life issues like healthcare and access to affordable health coverage.
Which, healthcare for rural Missouri has seen a real big hit. Hospitals closing, patient bed. Beds are full because people from miles away got to come in.
You have to have doctors.
Yeah, you have to have doctors, which is, I guess, if you want to go to the hospital, you got to have doctors.
You can't have a family farm business without a local community and other jobs to support it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard. If you have to drive 2 hours to have a child, that makes it really difficult to raise a family on a farm.
Well, it is hard. Delivery is,
Yeah.
you do have to drive a distance anymore in rural areas. So my hospital in Appleton, we just celebrated our 90th anniversary.
Really?
We're the second smallest critical access hospital in the state, 12 beds, founded by my great aunt and uncle. They saw their first patient in 1935.
That is awesome.
Back then, speaking of delivery, so my great uncle was the head doctor, head surgeon, delivered 3 to 5 babies a day on average.
Wow.
Think about that. Think about that. And a mother could stay in the hospital for 3 days. Delivery charge and hospital stay of $35.
I was going to say, I don't want to know.
$35. And that included an ambulance ride home.
Man.
And after World War II ended, my grandpa was the farmhand and the ambulance driver for the hospital. So he would. So my family has been long rooted in healthcare and agriculture, but you just see how much health policy, the cost of healthcare has changed. It's really sad.
Yeah. No, it is remarkable to see just how, prices have gone up for basic drugs. And I'm sure I don't know how much a state can do on that. It might be more of a federal policy, but I know, again, just the people that I spoke to at that bill signing, the amount of them that were just regular day farmers, talking about how much that's going to positively benefit them. I mean,
Yep.
I couldn't, if I had a nickel for every single one, I'd be able to buy all of Scott's Steins back there.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's quite a few.
But another one, and I don't know if this counts as agritourism, but the state fair. I went for the first time last year, and I had a totally different experience than this year. I think Kelton would probably agree with me that if you want a state fair experience, you work for the Missouri Times, and then you'll get the perfect state fair experience. You'll do all the
I can
interviews,
attest
you'll
to
go to
this,
all
yeah.
the events. But this state fair, I mean, I saw it had a tremendous, I can't remember the amount exactly, but a tremendous amount of visitors. FFA obviously plays a huge role at that state fair. That the new Parson building, which is under construction right now, it's easily going to be the biggest building on the campus there. Talk to me a little bit about the state fair, because it seemed like you guys had a really good showing this year.
We did. And honestly, it's been great in recent years to see the interest by the governor and the legislature in providing an infusion of funds to do some really critical, not just updates, but actually plan for the future and how we're going to continue to tell the story of agriculture and what really is the premier showcase. So just so much excitement. You could feel it in and out of our building that despite the farm economy, that time at the state fair for many farm families is the family reunion. It's the time to escape from some of the everyday routine and just enjoy the camaraderie of being there, feeling tradition. There's so much tradition on the fairgrounds with the things that happen, but yet always an infusion of the new. But it's funny, when you talk to fellow members, fellow families, they consistently do the same things every year. They look forward to the same eateries, the same food stands, the same events, the concerts, etc. It just really is such a showcase of Missouri agriculture that we always look forward to every year.
Yeah.
And of course, the best value on the fairgrounds is in the Missouri Farm Bureau building with our 25-cent cup of ice cold chocolate or white milk.
I remember that. I'm sure Scott's probably stopped in for several cups of chocolate milk every once in a while.
That's my kid's favorite part.
Well, talk to me about, you guys got some priorities you want to get done. It seems like land rights is becoming a big one.
It is.
Do you think that's going to be an issue in the 26th session?
Absolutely. And beyond.
Yeah.
So, in just a few weeks, we'll have our annual meeting, which is our flagship event where our members...
If 2 new Farm Bureau members just joined Farm Bureau,
should
they go? Should they go to that?
They should be talking to their county Farm Bureau and seeing if they are needed at annual meeting to help represent
Dan and Carol,
the county.
if you're watching, you should be there.
It really is. Missouri Farm Bureau has one of the largest delegate bodies of any state Farm Bureau. We'll have between 600 and 700 county leaders representing all areas of the state in our business session Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning, in which they debate, amend, and ultimately vote and approve the policies that will take us into 2026.
Yeah.
And so, but I can tell you, I can guarantee property rights will be a signature component of our legislative agenda in 2026 and beyond, just as it has been in recent years. Why is that? In large part, this fundamental shift in power generation and transmission that's necessitating a conversation about land use. I think I always follow Senator O'Laughlin, and she was down in my neck of the woods.
Garrett's, I was going to say, Garrett's very articulate in saying somebody's mad. Some people are mad.
She was down in my neck of the woods, just north of me, looking at a solar project that has been very controversial. And so, it's important we approach this conversation from the standpoint that one, it is important for the general public to recognize that the infrastructure we enjoy today has been built on the backs of farmers and landowners for decades, right? Why is that? Well, ultimately, we needed electrification to the farmstead, and so we were large pushers for electrification. But now this modernization effort and this shift, particularly that we saw in the last 4 years, has led to an unfair burden on private property owners. And what we are trying to do is elevate the conversation and say farmers and landowners deserve a seat at the table. They deserve to have their voice heard, because in many instances their private property rights are being trampled. And we've seen that in Missouri, rights trampled for private gain, and that simply isn't fair, isn't right. We're having this conversation in Missouri, and we are leading the conversation within American Farm Bureau as well for national conversations.
I think it, whether it's farm or any other issue, I think there's going to be several senators that are going to come back this year with some property rights stuff. I know Senator Nicola made that the centerpiece of his agenda this last session. I guarantee you he's going to come back again. Aaron, are you thinking that's probably going to be the big topic this session?
We're at the tip of the spear here. Yeah. This is the beginning. I'm not sure what the end looks like, but this is certainly we have to start. It's very hard to tell where some of these issues are going to go. Data centers play a huge role in some of this. Lots of what is going to be required for future workforce investment and economic development in this state is going to hinge on jobs of the future. And there's always been a lot of tension there between, we have huge metro centers. We are unique in that. Like, not every state has that. Texas is probably very similar in that. Like, and then you have huge rural parts of the state, and you have to balance the interests of the whole state. Mike Kehoe has his work cut out for him. I don't know. As somebody, I'm out.
Well, one of the most basic things that we've asked for the last couple of years: close a loophole that allows solar and wind developments to be considered to be power plants and therefore have the power of condemnation and domain. That's a loophole that should be closed because it's an outdated definition. When we passed House Bill 2005 a few years ago to send the signal to out-of-state entities that Missouri just isn't wide open when it comes to potential transmission projects, that sent a shot across the bow. That was the toehold from which we were trying to build for more reform. Reforms that we haven't really seen since Kelo versus New London by the Supreme Court in 2005 that led to some eminent domain changes here in Missouri in 2006. So we're going to continue to elevate this conversation with our fellow ag partners. There's just more work to be done. We can balance energy security and property rights. And frankly, I think Missouri should lead the way as being the model state of how to respect farmers and landowners while also getting it right from an energy policy standpoint. So my plea is to the legislature, let's get this done.
We'll leave it there. Obviously, we need to thank our sponsors. United Fiber, Great Northwest. I can't do it as well as Scott. You actually do it much better than I do when you were sitting here.
Oh, man. I don't know.
But also Courtyard by Marriott. I wouldn't want... My dad came up to help me move into my new place. I told him, I said, if you need somewhere to stay, we'll call the Courtyard. I won't put you in the plaza.
You won't put me up in the one-bedroom Jeff City apartment I have.
He told me, he said he came here for a conference like 15 years ago, and he said the plaza was bad then. And I was like, ooh, in 15 years, I don't want to
Imagine having to have prom there. That's how bad.
Oh, my goodness.
Then, obviously, Mocan Trade, all the best products grown here in Missouri and regulated in Missouri. So we just want to thank our viewers today for watching. Garrett, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Nick.
Aaron, thanks for walking down the street. I know it's a special Girls' Day today, so you're taking some time to come chat with us about rural ag. But we just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch us. Be sure, if you're a Farm Bureau member, be sure to be at that conference. I'm looking at you, Dan and Carol. You need to be at that conference.
Take notes for Aaron.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you tomorrow. Scott will be on here with Will Westmoreland. They're going to be talking about some stuff going on in D.C. right now. So.
Okay.